What happens when the political deadlock in Washington gets so bad that nothing can be done? What if the effects don't simply happen in the US, but also affect your travel plans, your vacation, or even your layover at the airport? It may sound dramatic, but the truth is simple. The US government's constant shutdown is not only an issue in the US, it is a catastrophe across all of North America. Also, if you're a Canadian and want to go south in the fall or winter, you need to pay very close attention to this information. The US government has hit another obstacle. Because politicians in Washington can't agree on a finance deal, thousands of government workers are either being put on temporary leave or being forced to work without pay. This might sound familiar to you for a good reason. The most recent major shutdown, which happened during Donald Trump's presidency and lasted more than a month, messed up everything from national parks to airport security checks. We are starting to feel like we have seen this before now that the most recent deadlock is happening. Imagine this. You just got to an airport in the US on your trip to Mexico or the Caribbean. You will need to take a connecting flight through either Miami, Dallas, or Chicago before getting on your next plane. You are tired and want to stretch your legs when you suddenly see a long line that doesn't seem to move too much on its own. You keep looking at your watch, and the anger inside you starts to grow. If this closure lasts for a long time, many tourists may have to deal with this reality in the following few weeks. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, which is in charge of airport security, is one of the groups that has been affected right away. Because their jobs are seen as important, cops have been told to keep working. But just because something is vital doesn't mean it's exempt. Even though they aren't getting paid anymore, they are still obliged to show up every day. During the most recent stoppage, hundreds of people suddenly stopped going to work. When this happens, the lines get longer, the wait times get longer, and the whole system starts to break down under the stress. Have you ever seen a security line that goes all the way to the front door, around a food court, and then into the terminal? It looked like this the last time something like this happened, and it's likely that it may happen again. But it's not just the trouble that comes with it. There are real people waiting in these long lines, and they are really feeling the effects. Many of the people who work for the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, air traffic controllers, and Border Patrol personnel live paycheck to paycheck. They still have to pay the rent, feed their kids, and the bills are stacking up. If the flow of money stops, people will become desperate. Some others are already going to food banks for help. Some people are taking on side jobs, like driving for Uber or Lyft after their shifts at the airport to make ends meet. Think about that for a second. The same person who looked through your suitcase for weapons at dawn can also be handing out meals later that night since their government hasn't paid them yet. How does that affect a person's ability to think clearly? That makes our airports and skies a lot safer, right? The Attorney General of Washington said in Seattle that if Congress didn't act right now, thousands of federal workers would have to work without pay or go on furlough soon. Air traffic controllers, customs agents, and meteorologists are just a few of the people whose work keeps the skies safe and flights on time. The whole system will be affected if even one of those links gets weaker. The second stage is to put oneself in the shoes of a traveler. You are going to take a trip to a warm and sunny resort in Mexico or the Dominican Republic. The price seemed fair, and the flights seemed good, with only one stop in the US on the route to the destination. Still, have you thought about what happens on the way back? When you get to the United States, you have to go through US Customs first, and then you have to go through TSA screening again before you can board your connecting aircraft back to Canada. If these checkpoints are short-staffed, if personnel are on strike, sick, or just given up, your connecting flight may have already left by the time you get through their doors. If you can save a few $100s on your ticket, is it worth missing it, getting stuck overnight, or losing your bags in the process? During the most recent government shutdown, travelers all throughout the United States had to deal with that. There were delays for a few hours. The lines moved at a snail's pace. People started to get angry. On the other hand, the people who were hurt the most by it weren't the politicians in Washington. They were the everyday workers who were just trying to do their jobs. A union leader for the Transportation Security Administration, Joe Schuer, recently spoke from Philadelphia. He went on to say, "We work in a high-stress job, but worrying about how to feed our families shouldn't be part of it." His message was clear, but it had a big effect. Schuer said that TSA agents took almost 7,000 guns from travelers in just 1 year. This number shocked several of the people in the room. 94% of the guns were loaded, which is another scary truth. Think about that figure for a moment. There were a little over 7,000 loaded guns found at airports. Who would take a loaded gun to a checkpoint? How many of those could have been overlooked if a TSA agent was under a lot of stress, worked too much, and didn't get paid? It's not just TSA officials who are feeling the pressure. Air traffic controllers are in the same situation as you are. They are the ones that tell your plane when to take off, land, and even taxi across the runway. A lot of them are working without pay, and a lot of them are in debt and have expenses to pay. In a place where being accurate and alert is highly important, the risk is no longer just long lines. It's also the very real chance of making mistakes or errors. Would you really want to fly, knowing that the person in charge of keeping an eye on your plane's path hasn't been paid in weeks? There is also the political side of things. Congress can't agree on anything, since all the airports have stopped working. Instead of pursuing solutions, the White House and Congress are throwing accusations at each other. There are also claims that former President Trump is posting AI-made videos and memes on Truth Social late at night, instead of working to stop the war. It's strange to watch a current government issue emerge in real time online, while regular people have to deal with the effects of it offline. During the 2018 to 2019 shutdown, several airport workers asked for help from neighborhood food drives and charities. Churches, neighbors, and even travelers gave food and other supplies to the workers who were affected. The same thing is starting to happen again. Politics getting in the way of government is a sad thing to think about because it shows how weak the system actually is. The lesson for Canadians is clear. If you are planning a trip soon that may require you to fly through the US, you might want to think about it again. Direct flights may cost a bit more than other options, but in situations like this, they are well worth the extra money. If you stay away from airports in the United States, you might be able to save yourself a lot of stress, and maybe even a few delayed flights. The truth is that these shutdowns are happening more and more often, and each one leaves indelible wounds on the people who are responsible for keeping the system running. Yes, the workers will eventually get their back pay, but that won't help them pay their rent this month or keep their credit card from exceeding its limit. A lot of folks can't fix the damage now. For those of us who are watching from the other side of the border, this is simply another reminder of how connected we are. A government shutdown in Washington isn't only a political issue in the US. It has effects for people who travel, businesses, and families outside of the US as well. So, while this shutdown goes on, it's vital to ask, how much longer can this go on before something breaks? How long will it take for workers who aren't getting paid to depart for good? When will travelers stop utilizing airports in the United States altogether? Even while the political fight in Washington may seem like a distant one, it is already having an effect on airport terminals, control towers, and border crossings. For Canadians and anyone else who is getting ready to travel through the United States, the simplest advice may be the most useful. Fly direct, remain educated, and be open to change. This is mostly because things can change very quickly during times like this. And maybe the more crucial question is this: if the most vital workers in a country can't count on getting paid, how long can the system itself stay stable? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.